say the connection bad by ban Carnat, P.I. Dombatin on to Riatalaka Compool, they on to Ravi Samankan Talaka Cambodia, your bad see mau, Calamachi, they on Riatalaka Compool, they over to go some and the bottom chip take nong, some rapka group crong, Sal Savanaka, non Thai Savanakani. បទបញ្ជាផ្ទៃក្នុងគ្រប់គ្រងសាលសាវនាការក្នុងថ្ងៃសាវនាការដើម្បីរក្សានៅសណ្ដាប់ធ្នាប់របៀបរៀបរយសន្តិសុខនិងដំណើរការល្អក្នុងពេលសាវនាការប្រធានអង្គជំនះតុលាការកំពូលសម្រាប់ដាក់ចេញនៅបទបញ្ជាផ្ទៃក្នុងគ្រប់គ្រងសាលសាវនាការក្នុងកំឡុងពេលសាវនាការលើបណ្ដឹងសារទុកក្នុងសំណុំរឿង002វគ្គ1ដោយខាងក្រោម
Below are the internal regulations. 1. All persons who wish to attend a hearing shall be present in the courtroom of the extraordinary chambers in the courts of Cambodia by 8:40 a.m. and before 1:30 p.m. Participants and persons in the public gallery shall stand when the greffier announces stand and sit when the president of the Supreme Court chamber announces sit down, except the venerable monks. 3. Participants shall maintain dignified and proper behavior in the courtroom at all times. Participants shall wear appropriate clothing and should not display slogans indicating their support for a party of the proceedings. 4. All cameras, camcorders, tape recorders, and loudspeakers are prohibited in the courtroom, except as approved by the President of the Supreme Court chamber. 5. Smoking or bringing food or drinks inside the courtroom is prohibited. 6. All weapons, explosives, ammunition, and inflammable substances are prohibited inside the courtroom, except for those carried by the ECCC's authorized security guards. 7. The use of cell phones is strictly prohibited. Phone cameras and phone audio recordings are also prohibited, except as approved by the President of the SCC. 8. All persons are prohibited from changing seats or walking freely inside the courtroom. 9. All persons are prohibited from clapping, cheering, shouting, or making loud noises that might disrupt the hearing. 10. Permission must be granted by an ECCC authorized security guard in order to enter or exit the courtroom. 11. Children under 16 years of age are prohibited from entering the courtroom. Persons between 16 and 18 years of age may enter the courtroom if they are accompanied by a parent or legal guardian, unless they are attending the public hearing as civil parties. 12. If anyone finds to violate the regulations, the President of the Supreme Court chamber may take preventative measures or direct action against any person who breaches these internal regulations. Phnom Penh, 17 November 2000. July 2015.
សូមជួយអង្គុយ
Please be seated.
តាំងនាមប្រជា
President, in the name of the United Nations and the Cambodian people, the SEC opens an appeal hearing of the parties against the judgment dated 7 August 2014 by the trial chamber of the ECCC in case 002, dated 19 September 2007, where Nuon Chea and Khieu Samphan are the co-accused. Today, the composition of the Supreme Court chambers are as follows. I, the presiding judge Kong Srim, Judge Anjitska Milad, Judge Saum Serivut, Judge Florence Mumba, Judge Mongmani Chariya, Judge Chandra Nihal Yachinge, and Judge Ja Narend. The graphies are Mr. Volker Nerich, Mr. Siamau, Mr. Sela Pailan, Mr. Pablo Loba, and Mr. Pon Thurn. Graphically are all the parties present. Grazie, Mr. President, for today's proceedings. All parties to this case are present, and both accused, Nuon Chea and Khieu Samphan, are present as well. We have participation of 10 civil parties, namely Madame Chim Suwan, Madame Mom Som Eun, Mr. Misaran, Madame Auri, Madame Tang Sokha, Mr. On Polly, Madame Sang Arat, Madame Chan Sochiet, Mr. Chen Rumdul, and Madame Po Dina. Thank you, Mr. President. President, on 7 August 2014, the trial chamber issued a judgment in case 002/01, finding accused Khieu Samphan and Nuon Chea guilty of the crimes against humanity of extermination, in comprising murder, persecution on political grounds, and other inhuman acts, comprising forced transfer, forced disappearances, and attacks against human dignity committed within the territory of Cambodia between 17 April 1975 and the end of 1977. Therefore, the trial chamber convicted the two accused and sentenced them to life imprisonment. On 29 September 2014, Unchi and Keo Sampon filed their notices of appeal against the trial chamber's judgment, with Nunchi raising 223 grounds of appeal, and Keo Sampon raising 148 grounds of appeal, and filing subsequent motions. On 29 September 2014, the co-prosecutors also filed their notice of appeal. Upon receipt of the two accused motions, the Supreme Court chamber granted the motions in part, permitting Nunchi and Keo Sampon to extend the page limit and time to file their appeal briefs due to the scope and complexity of the case. The Supreme Court chamber also permitted the co-prosecutors to extend the page limit and time to file the English language version of their consolidated response, which was filed on 24 April 2015, with the Khmer translation to follows. On 29 December 2014, Nunchi and Keo Sampon filed the appeal briefs in English and French. The appeal briefs request the Supreme Court chamber, inter alia, to summons 9 witnesses, including those who have been identified in the accused's first request and third request. On 29 May 2015, the Supreme Court chamber issued a decision to admit as evidence the written record of witness interview in accordance with Rule 108(7) of the Internal Rules, and summons witnesses, namely SCW3, S3W4, and S3W5, to testify before the Supreme Court chamber pro motu in accordance with Rule 104.1 of the Internal Rules. And the chamber remains seized of Nunchi's request to summons other witnesses, Heng Samrin, Robert Lamkin, Ok Bun Chun, Ted Sambat, and witnesses SCW1 and SCW2. The chamber affirms that the hearing on the parties' appeal in case 002/01 has commenced. Yet, this hearing is specifically intended to examine the 3 witnesses requested in Nunchi's appeal and third request to file additional evidence. The chamber has found that first, in the interest of justice, it is necessary to hear witnesses SCW3 and SCW4 in accordance with Rule 104.1 of the Internal Rules, and second, the testimony of witness SCW5, who was not available at trial, could be a decisive factor in reaching a decision in accordance with Rule 108.7 of the Internal Rules. Given that this hearing is intended to hear only these 3 witnesses, the parties are not expected to make oral arguments relating to the matters set out in the appeals, and hearings on the substance of the appeals will later be scheduled in due course. The chamber recalls that the present procedures follow the jurisprudence of the ICTR. Yesterday, the Supreme Court chamber decides on the objection of the use of documents as reference in putting questions to the witnesses. The questioning shall follow the guidelines set out by the SCC, and today the SCC will hear testimony of SCW4, that is Sawon, and tomorrow we will hear the witness SCW3, and on Monday next week we will hear testimony of SCW5. I would like now to hand the floor to Judge Janaran and Judge Mamba to present the report.
របាយការណ៍របស់សហជីព
Judge Janaran, co-rapporteur's report for hearings of the 2nd, 3rd, and 6th July 2015. As stated by the President, the principal purpose of our hearings is to hear the testimonies of witnesses at CW4, 3, and 5, respectively. Nunchia submits that their testimony could have a bearing on the correctness of the trial chamber's finding relating in particular to the command structure within the Communist Party of Cambodia, that is CPK, the CPK policy to target Khmer Republic soldiers and officers, and finally the executions at Tulpu Chre. Accordingly, the scope of my report will be confined to those grounds of appeal that are directly related to those issues. This is not to suggest, however, that their testimonies could not eventually be considered relevant to other grounds of appeal as well. I shall first set out the parties' submissions regarding the command structure. I shall then hand over to my co-rapporteur, Judge Mumba, who shall summarize the parties' submissions regarding the other issues. First, on the CPK command structure. The trial chamber found that control over the CPK was ultimately exercised by the Standing Committee, an extra statutory body composed of 7 members, including Nuon Chea. Khieu Sampon was never a member of the Standing Committee,